wonder to ourselves, at least, what should we be thinking about while we're doing that. And I think the Apostle Paul gives us some good information regarding this in 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. There are actually three things that I think he reminds us of that we should be thinking about while we partake of the Lord's Supper. Verse 23, he said, "For I received from the Lord that which I also delivered to you. The Lord Jesus, on the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'Take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' In the same manner, he also took the cup after supper, saying, 'This cup is the new covenant in my blood. This do as often as you drink it in remembrance of me.'" So the first thing that he reminds us here, that we need to think about things in the past. We need to look back. What we're doing this morning in the partaking of the Lord's Supper is a memorial to his death, burial, and resurrection. And then in verse 26, he tells us there that we need to look forward. He says, "For as often as we eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes." So we look back, we look forward to the time when Jesus is coming again. We hear people talking all the time today that Jesus is coming soon. We don't know that that's the case, whether it's going to be soon or for a long time. But we do know that he is coming again. So when we partake of the Lord's Supper, we can remember that very fact, that he is coming again. But in verse 27, he tells us that we also need to look inwardly. "Therefore, whomever eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup." Now, sometimes from the King James Version, I believe, people have gotten the idea that we are not worthy, that we consider ourselves unworthy of partaking of the Lord's Supper. That's not what he's talking about here. The examination here is to examine how we partake of the Lord's Supper, whether we've got our mind on something else. And I'll be quite frank with you and admit freely that occasionally my mind wanders about from what I'm doing when I partake of the Lord's Supper. But he says that we need to remember these things, and these are the things that we need to think about while we're partaking of the Lord's Supper. So we need to examine ourselves as to how we're doing it, what we're thinking about during this period of time. So we look backward, we look forward, and we look inward as we partake of the Lord's Supper. And let's keep that in mind as we do it this morning.